Sorry, I'm back.
David, are you saying you're sorry that you have come back?
It's all good. I'm here. All right. Let me. Robert, I'm going to make you co-host.
Perfect.
All right. And I will be back.
Okay. And Peter said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Amazing what you can do when you have remote control for your lights.
And when it works.
Yeah. I don't have too much trouble with it. Sometimes they lose their mind.
Uh-huh. So who's in Florida? Is David in Florida? And Ray?
No, Ray is in Florida, and he survived okay because
Okay.
we've seen him on After Hours a couple of times.
Okay.
David's in the Midwest somewhere, middle of the U.S., northern middle of the U.S. I was cleaning out my desk and I found an obviously exposed roll of 35 millimeter Kodacolor film. I'm almost afraid to know what's on it.
That would be a blast down memory lane for sure.
Yeah. I'm not even sure where I would get it processed, to be honest with you.
Good point. I have some friends at the film school here in Poland, where Roman Polanski and people like that graduated. And they only work with black and white film because they can have them processed by themselves in a darkroom in a small container. They have the liquids. But with color, I think it's a slightly different ball game.
I used to have in this house, I used to have a color darkroom.
For films or for prints?
Actually, for slides.
Okay.
I used to do photography as a hobby I've been doing that since I was probably 13 or 14. I'm 65 now, so I've done lots of that kind of stuff, but it was color is significantly more difficult than black and white, that's for sure, to process. Looks like Rabbi David is about to join us.
I only recently went and had a look at David's website. Didn't realize he was so much into training.
Yeah.
He does a lot of work, some really interesting stuff.
I appreciate the plug. Thank you.
I'm actually impressed that you're with us today, David.
The rabbi in the midst of the high holidays is taking time for a Zoom call.
Exactly.
Can I tell you something? This is my break from all of that insanity. I I don't understand. People get so crazy about it, and rabbis and cantors and Jews. Oh my.
So David, just let's understand. I came from what I would refer to as a mixed marriage.
Well, I'm in a mixed marriage also.
I'm
a conservative Jew. My wife's a Reformed Jew. So
no, well, my mother was Jewish and my father was Roman Catholic. That's a mixed marriage.
You win. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. What great timing. Hello, everyone. Good to see all of you. Peter, nice to see you. Robert, how are you? Oh, Peter, I should make you a co-host. And anyone else who's joined us, pop on those cameras so we can say hello to you. Hey, Chris and David and Frank. Good to see all of you. We had a big Zoom release this week. Oh, man. We even got a pretty new Zoom icon. I don't know if that was across the board, but I have a pretty new Zoom icon on my.
I don't know if I'd call it pretty, just basic.
I like the color. I like the blue.
Yeah,
kind of the gradient blue. I was looking it up before to try and show new Zoom icon Mac. Let's see. Interestingly enough, it doesn't actually pop up right away when you look for it. But let's see here. I saw it. Oh my gosh, now I can't find it again. Anyone have the new Zoom logo or whatever you call it? Here it is. I found it. So here you go. It's this guy right over here. Look, I think it's really pretty. I like it.
You're also less likely to confuse it with anything.
I guess so. Yeah. Hey, Tamara.
Hello.
Hello. So we got the big new release. And on top of that, was it you, Peter, who said that they were playing around with some mobile stuff and they wanted to test it out? I can't remember who that was.
Wasn't me.
It wasn't you. Well, someone said that they had been playing with the mobile app and wanted to bring some stuff in and share with us. So why don't we kind of jump in here instead of we walked through the show notes. We walked through the release notes last time, but let's actually play with some of it. So we got the new Zoom icon. I, for the first time, found my profile card. I didn't even know I had one. I don't see it here in the meeting, but I did see it in events. For some reason, I went to events. Let me just see. I'm seeing if I can see anyone's profile. No, it doesn't come up here. But I was in events. Let's see. Where's my information showing your profile card? See, now that I set it up, I have no idea how to do it. Profile
available picture in chat. If you've got other people in chat or yourself, you can see your own in chat. But
so I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I don't want to open up on my other. Let's go into chat. Team and chat. Well, there's another quick change. It's not. It's called Team Chat, not just Chat.
Is that the outside chat, team chat? I'm super sad. I haven't used team chat yet.
It really is outside of meetings and webinars. So there's a complete thing that you can use among your company and external people as well.
So I hope he won't mind, but this is Andy's profile card, I guess. So the way I got to this, I went over to Team Chat. If you just click on the three dots right here, you can say view profile. I don't know how to view my own profile. Let me see if, is this me? I don't even know if this is me. Leave channel, no. So I can't actually see my own profile from in here. Okay. Well, that was exciting. Profiles.
David, even if you click on your image on the top right-hand corner, is it not available?
It doesn't seem to be. So if I click on this image, and not really. switch to
Yeah,
portrait. check
if
for
you click on the
updates.
My Profile menu,
Wait a
it
second.
takes you online.
Yeah, but now it's going to take me online, which is not really helpful.
Yeah.
No,
I'll
it just
try.
takes you to your profile page on
Right.
the Zoom website.
You know who you are.
Well, that's true. You're absolutely right. I probably don't need to. It's like when we used to Google ourselves. Okay, so we
But
got
can be
that.
scarier.
Meeting section. Let me go back here. I lost my notes because I got. All right, here we go. All right, so this sign language interpretation. And this is the Zoom. You have to have the Zoom webinars add-on plan, so we can't do. And I actually don't know if he has a Zoom webinars plan.
Well, this isn't a webinar.
No,
Yeah, but just
You don't have to
David,
be in a webinar. You just have to
Right.
have the
you
plan.
don't have to be in a webinar.
Oh, okay.
David,
Right.
Jeff does have the interpretation available. So as the host, you should be able to activate it.
So interpretation, but is that sign language? So
Yeah,
sign
the
language
way-
just
The way it works is you assign someone as an interpreter, and then once he's assigned as an interpreter, you assign him additionally as an ASL person.
so it's. I'm not seeing that option here. Let me spotlight myself. So
I had
I've
to
got-
request it for our account. I had to
Yeah.
contact Zoom and ask them to turn it on for our.
Yeah, because I've got all the languages here, but it does not have. I think this is a separate sort of a breakout feature, because it's not available here for me to choose from.
And it has to be enabled as well.
Yep.
So
Yep, which I don't think we can do on the back end here. All right. Oh, let's talk audio controls. So they changed it again. So now, I wonder if I'll be able to show this to you.
It actually says
It's
more
musicians.
it's more verbose is the
Right.
best way I can describe it.
So this is what we've got now. So now we've got down here, it's now broken out into audio profile, and you've got Zoom optimized audio, which is what we're all used to. And when you click on that, then you get these different options. Oh, I should spotlight myself again. Sorry. Then you get these different options. You get auto, low, medium, high, which we're all used to. If you choose original sound for musicians, then you see high fidelity music mode, echo cancellation, stereo audio. And then in the meeting itself, what is it? What do you guys see at the top of your screen? I can't really see mine. I have to move it
I
out
can.
here.
It now says I'm trying to open a Zoom on a different thing to look at it because it says something like musicians thing. It is a long
Right.
sentence, but it is more clear because I used that in the event that I did a couple weeks ago, and half the people that when we tried to guide them through turning their original sound on before they went into the audition room, I was like, their original sound's not on. But it was so hard to tell what it meant by on and off, and it switched from last year to this year that it was like there, people like, you should have checked them before they went in. I'm like, we so checked them before they went in, but there's nothing we can do if we can't see what's on their screen.
Yeah. You know what I found interesting is that I do play a lot of music. I have a guitar and I sing, and I'm running all of my audio through a Rodecaster Pro, and then it's on its own channel on its way into Zoom. I don't have, and in Zoom, I keep it in Zoom optimized audio. I don't put on original audio, and I just make sure that my background noise suppression is set to low. And as long as it's set to low, my music, even videos, they all play through fine. I haven't had any problems. And what I've been told is that, at least in speaking, is that my mic actually sounds better without original sound on.
I think that's true. I set sound levels for 162 actors in the last 2 weeks, and the ones that didn't need to sing, I kept them on off original sound, because especially if they don't have the mic setup that you have. I think also the Rodecaster's helping you a lot. It's doing what Zoom original sound does. But when I run auditions where I'm zoomed into the room, or I had singers, they have to be on original sound, because the way that it works is it brings your level down if you go too high, and it brings your level up. So it basically keeps you in the same kind of space, which isn't how we mix sound. So for singers, as soon as they got to a high note, it was just tamp them down.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is only because the literature, and everyone has always told me that if you're going to be sharing anything other than spoken voice, then you should be in original audio. And that just hasn't been my experience. My experience is that as long as I keep this setting for background noise suppression on low, then it doesn't cut out when I'm doing music. So,
but I think that's the Rodecaster.
Well, it could be, although, you know, I'm going in and out dry on the Rodecaster. I have I have no processing turned on whatsoever on the Rodecaster.
And I get a lot of these on the Zoom community as well. And I think, you know, I'm not there and I can't see them, but the sense that I get is someone's got a laptop and it's sitting over on the table over there, and they're playing the guitar over here 10 or 15 feet away. And, you know, they're used to going, okay, can you hear me now? And you can hear them because they're talking nice and loud, but then they're playing the guitar, and Zoom cuts them out. So when we're all nice and close to a microphone and we've got controls at our fingertips that can make sure that level is going to exceed the sound reduction threshold that Zoom puts in, I think we're fine. But the average musician that goes, it won't hear my piano. Well, it's because the piano is on the other side of the living room, and by the time the sound gets to the microphone of the laptop or whatever, it's just not working. So
I've also heard the opposite, where the mic's in the right place. I went through this last weekend. Mic's in the right place, but because the what do we want to call it these days, original sound from musicians was off, Zoom was clipping the music.
So that is absolutely true. If it's off, it will clip the music, because you have no control. Like, the thing is, you have to also go behind the scenes and uncheck the box that it gives you control of your microphone. So if you don't have that, its natural state is for it to be checked, and what it's doing is it is making all the decisions for you.
So you're talking about automatically adjust microphone volume? Yeah.
So that has to be unchecked. Otherwise, you don't have any control of anything. Like, it just controls everything. So then the other thing is, if you do have original sound on and you optimize for HD, which works if you have a microphone, it doesn't do very much of anything if you don't. If you have something going through, some kind of preamp, then it's fine. But it also drains your computer it is one of the most CPU draining things that Zoom does. So that's the other issue too that we have to weigh, is like, is it worth it to, Are you talking about the high fidelity music mode? Yeah. So what is the third option is something else.
So you've got high fidelity under original sound for musicians. You've got high fidelity music mode, echo cancellation, and stereo audio.
Right. So stereo audio is only usable if you have a preamp of some kind, if you're using a mic. So if you have that checked in, then that helps people who are using a mic. Doesn't do anything if you don't have that, right? So most of us do. I don't at the moment, but most of us do. The high fidelity music mode is amazing. It makes everything sound lovely, but it is super draining on your computer. All of those things take up a lot of resources. So I think the other issue is that we have all gotten really used to Zoom taking over our audio. So sometimes it's actually exhausting when you just listen to original sound, because it's everybody in the background, all the noises around you. So I think that for music, I mean, if you're singing and you're not hooked into your microphone, I have to have it on, and it is painful for me as a listener to listen to if they don't have if they're not wearing a headset, for example, and all of that. But I could not hear their notes if I didn't do that.
Remember back in 2020 when all this mess started and the whole world was trying to figure out how to use Zoom, I distinctly remember having discussion after discussion after discussion about if you're in a hybrid setting, if you've got open speakers, like say in an auditorium or a sanctuary, how to avoid having that come back in to Zoom through an open mic. And I mean, there were lots of different solutions. The one that I suggested to people, which was stupid and simple, was when the Zoom is speaking, the room is muted. When the room is speaking, the Zoom is muted. So basically, if you've got amplification coming out into your room, press mute on Zoom, meaning, sorry, if someone from Zoom is speaking and it's coming out into the room, then mute the room microphones and vice versa. But now I'm wondering, I mean, has Zoom gotten so good at rejection of that stuff that this is
it
not much of
hasn't
an issue anymore?
It hasn't as of a month ago, at least not that I'm aware of, because we were just where I was doing some volunteer work. We were just having that conversation about how do I intercept open mics and send that feed to Zoom before it goes to the house speakers. Sort of automatically do what you were just saying, David, right? So that we didn't have the house speakers echoing in the background.
Yeah. David just wrote in the chat, auto mic mixer. Yeah, that's it, like a Dugan auto mixer, right? Which I don't have. Source expanders. What are source expanders?
Source expander is something we use in live audio. Think of it as the fastest person on a fader instead of a noise gate. It's lowering and raising that fader, and it does it in under milliseconds. So as the room, let's say the convention hall, the mics are quiet or they fall down to a certain level, it cuts out the background. So you're not getting rustling papers and noises of that kind. When somebody steps up to the mic, it opens that expander up and they talk normally. And even when you hear it on playback, it's so much faster in processing now than it used to be, you know, when we were using gates, and gates just are horrible. So
forgive my ignorance. Are these devices that you put in your audio chain, like a Dugan auto mixer, or?
They're part of, usually we have a digital mixing board, and that's the mixing board or a wave server is doing all the heavy lifting for us.
Gotcha. Okay. How do small organizations, synagogues, churches, youth centers, community centers, how do they I mean, is this technology not only beyond their financial reach, but also their technological understanding, or is it pretty commonplace? Forgive me for not knowing. I've never.
Yeah. So for a church type setting, so yeah, there is a certain point of entry. You know, you're talking about a digital mixing system. I mean, there are analog systems out there that do this. But your Zoom input is basically included, you know, let's say we have 7 microphones in the room and Zoom is one of those inputs. So it's a total of 8 inputs that automatic mic mixer is looking for. So what it's sending back out to Zoom is through those 8 is mixed. So if I'm talking in the room, I take precedence. If Zoom's talking, it takes precedence and shuts the other 7 off.
Right, which is essentially for those of us who don't have the automation to do that. That's what I was telling them to do.
Yeah. So the entry level for this is, you know, you're looking at around $1,000 plus for like a Behringer X32 type mixer.
And a Behringer X32 has a Dugan mix built in or something like it.
Dugan is a trade name, so be careful when we say that, because Dan Dugan is still out there and he owns the patent. But you're looking for automatic mic mixer. And yes, they do. They do have that. And even some of their little Behringer rack air mixers, you know, like 12 inputs are super affordable, and they have that feature also.
David Lynn, if I can just ask a question, is this the same sort of effect you get by using a ducker?
A ducker and a source expander are relatively doing the same thing. The algorithm they do it with is completely different.
Okay, because
So,
a ducker is a cheaper device for an entry-level type.
A ducker is basically taking one channel and pulling it down like a compressor, but it's literally lowering the dB relative to another signal. So you walk into the room, you've got your background music playing here, and then you've got your stinger announcement here. Well, when I fire that stinger, it lowers the music, and that's the ducker. Kind of it's real old school algorithm. So it's not, we don't use that on microphones because the guys in the camera truck are going to be like, what are you doing?
And I was going to ask, because on the Rodecaster Pro 2, there's most of the excitement around it has been the mix minuses and being able to really dial in what you want to minus out on any given channel going out. Is that also similar?
That's a typical, when we're out, we've come from 2 years of lockdown and we're bringing all this out to hybrid. A mix minus is a very, very common thing to do. And we do it analog, digital. The trick we've used lately is putting it into that automatic mic mixer, but it's literally sitting on an aux feed. So we can control whatever's going to Zoom like it's its own broadcast.
I got to tell you, there are a lot of things that confound me, none more so than audio. It seems to me that audio should be easier than video. I don't know why it seems that way, but boy, it is something else. And I think, Tamara, that what you said before is both a blessing and a curse from Zoom, because Zoom has made it really easy and relatively good. Zoom does a pretty darn good job at blocking out that background noise. Unfortunately, that's made all of us a little lazy in trying to have a better audio experience, I think.
Yeah, I think too, go ahead.
No, what I was just going to say is what I actually use is the built-in ATEM based compressor, expander, gate type products into what you guys are hearing out of me right now. I'm literally using a generic analog audio mixer that my mic is plugged into, and I'm listening to you guys out of speakers. So you guys are not hearing me on my mic open, because again, I've set the levels at the proper level to make sure that you guys are not going to get what I'm hearing back. Like, I could leave my mic open while you guys are talking and you won't hear yourselves come through, because the settings that I've set are just at that levels that it's blocking at the ATEM before it's getting into Zoom, right? Before it's getting into the computer.
Right. Are you sure? Because I'm set up the same way you are, but I'm letting Zoom do the blocking.
Did you hear yourself when you're just talking?
No, because the speakers don't feed back to me. Zoom is turning them off.
But is anybody else hearing him coming through my mic? Because my mic's open.
But Zoom does a mix minus too, right?
Yeah, Zoom does the mix minus.
Right, but I've got all that turned off here.
No,
I'm on original sound right now.
But Zoom at the server end does mix minus.
I think I get what Mike is actually saying, because
Yeah, I do
we're
too.
not getting any feedback at all through Mike's speakers.
Right. Like, I could take my mic off my stand if you want me and to shove it into the speaker and you won't hear it. That will actually, you will hear it then, because of the fact that it's literally in the speaker, because I've got it in the speaker. But right now, because of I'm only using an SM58 too, but it's enough of a pattern that it's catching me perfectly the way I've got it set up. But yet my settings within my ATEM are at a level that I've got the compressor on properly, I've got the expander on properly, I've got all the settings within the actual ATEM itself set up nicely so that you guys are hearing what you're actually hearing from me. The only tweak that I've really done on my audio mixer is played a little bit with, the low, mid, highs. That's it.
That's
And
typically how we set up a breakout room. So a very, very simple mixer, because the noise floor is so much lower in a 30, 40 person room compared to 3 to 8,000.
Right.
We don't need all the fancy, plugins and the tools. Basically what we're doing is we're coming out of a touch mix, and it's a mix minus. And between that and what Zoom is doing, regardless of how we have the sound settings done, we're off to the races, no big deal.
And for those of us who don't understand anything that was just said about all the different toggles and doohickeys and switches and gains and all that stuff.
You take a left, you take a left, you take a left.
No, but that's why Zoom has Zoom. I mean, and it seems to me they've spent an inordinate amount of energy trying to get this as right as they can. So.
Yeah, I think out of the box, because I deal with groups of people who are they don't even know how to turn their computers on. Like, I'm on the phone turning their computers on with them. And so a majority of the people don't know anything about, you say mix minus, their heads would explode. But
Right.
For a regular group of people, they can go into a meeting now. And I deal with people in New York where when I turn original sound on, I get to hear everybody who's been arrested in that vicinity. I can be in meetings and I don't hear even the tiniest of sirens. Kids can burn something down in the other building. They can type on their computer at the same time. I mean, Zoom has done a really impressive job to make it work for lay people. If they just said, we'll just take over your controls, like, no problem. So it becomes more sticky for us who kind of know the difference, but for the average person, it's become a completely different experience for them. And the people that I have problems with are the people who actually have a microphone, but they don't understand anything else about it. So they don't know to do all that other stuff.
I just went back into the notes, and it talked about the enhanced in-meeting toolbar for mobile. So I'm going to try and join. The problem is I think I'm logged in. I don't want to log in from the same thing. How do I log? If I log in from the same account, will it kick me?
No.
Typically not if you're on different types of devices.
All right, so let's try this. So, you know when when you're in trouble when you've memorized the Zoom Test Kitchen Zoom URL. That's that's concerning. Z Kitchen. All right, so
especially if you got the passcode encryption or something like that.
All right, so now I'm in, and now I wonder if I can. No, I got it. That's fine. I got it. Okay. I'm not going to join audio. All right. So now let me see if I can't bring this over and share it with you guys so you can see.
David, quick question. Have you updated the app?
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay.
Apparently I didn't. because I'm trying to swipe and nothing's swiping. Wait, all right, now I'm confused.
Well, if Apple does your updates for you, you may or may not have it already done, and I don't know whether they have the normal delay on the app drop or not.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I wonder if the update for the app hasn't come out yet. Let's see here.
Look.
So I don't have it. Zoom, looking to see if there's. I don't remember getting an update. I'd share this with all of you.
Mine's still 5.11.10, and I've got automatic updates set up.
What did you say again? 5.11.10?
Yes.
So I am in. What am I in?
Hit the more at the bottom, then hit the about at the bottom of more.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, 5.11.10. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess that hasn't updated. Well, that's depressing.
Yeah, Zoom hasn't been touched in the last week, according to my phone.
Okay. So that's still waiting then. We're still waiting on that.
But
All
David,
right.
just before you give up, just click on that version number. It should automatically update if the version is available.
All right, hold on, let's see. I didn't know that.
Usually the mobile versions are delayed. They have to go through a review process before they get to the various stores.
Yeah, it's I'm getting nothing. I'm clicking. Oh
It
well.
should come back and say Zoom is up to date or something.
It's not
Well,
telling me anything.
I believe the giveaway will be when the icon changes.
Let's see if it tells us here. No, 3 weeks ago was the last update.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when the icon changes from the old to the new, you know you got the new one.
Oh, right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You're right. Alrighty. Well, that was going to be fun. Self-view, hide non-video participant options. So now we've got these new, apparently, it looks new here. Let me, I got to pull this down so I can actually see it. And let's see. So view, this does not look any different to me. So this is what I'm looking at here.
So mine, if you click on the little 3 dots, you can do it from in the meeting now.
Say that again.
So if you click on the 3 dots next to your in your picture, it's actually on that drop down menu now.
3 dots in my picture.
So hover over yourself in the corner.
Yeah.
You can now choose show non-view or hide non-video participants and hide self, which you couldn't do in the meeting
right.
before. You could
Yep.
only do that through the other menu. It wasn't easily accessible.
Hide self view.
Yeah, you used to
Gotcha.
have to do that. You used to have to go through the video camera and then it takes you behind the scenes and then you could do it there even in a meeting, but now you can actually access
Oh,
it
okay.
like next to you
Gotcha.
and to go as far.
Okay.
So you don't have to stare at yourself.
Look at this. Is this new also?
Yes.
These right here? Oh God, they made those more obvious. Why did they do that? Oh my goodness. All right. So now you can blur my background, choose virtual background, choose video filter right from your, I wonder, can you do that also from the participants panel? No. That's interesting, right? So from the more in the participants panel, you only have, you only have a few things here, but when you do it in over the video, you have a lot more. Huh. Okay.
I don't know how discoverable that is.
It's interesting. I never click in here. Never. I always use the participants panel. And that may just be my workflow. I always keep my main Zoom meeting up on a little monitor in my teleprompter. So I actually can't even see the 3 dots.
I have to guide people through it in the meetings that I do, where I'm changing people's names and doing that with them. And it's slightly different from PC to Mac. So sometimes some devices you're like, just hover around the bottom. Maybe you'll find the 3 dots down there. Or it's in the right corner. So this is actually a lot easier if it's more universal.
Yep. All right. Let's see what else there is. Oh, whiteboard. We get to play with the whiteboard again. All right. Hold on. Whiteboard. Let's bring up a whiteboard. All right. New whiteboard. All right. I have opened a whiteboard for us. Let me bring this over here so that everyone else can see.
We have shapes now.
I have what?
We have shapes now. We can make stars.
We have shapes. All right. So it says we've got text objects. Sticky notes and shapes can be more finely formatted with rich text options, including bold, italics, underlined, font, bullet, yada, yada, yada. All right. So if I were to let's do a sticky note. There's my sticky note. And now this is a list. Oranges, apples, bananas. Where are my rich text formats? I don't see any rich text formats. Oh, you can bold. Okay. You can't italicize. And when you bold, it bolds the whole thing, at least in a sticky note. You can't just bold part of it. Can you underline? No.
So your panel looks different than my panel.
What do you mean my panel?
Your sidebar, that little white strip, mine
Yeah.
has all kinds of new things now.
What?
And are
That's
you?
not fair.
I know, but because this is exactly what it was before, and it was like you couldn't do anything with it.
Wait a second.
Because I'm looking at an offline
I'm on
one.
5.12.0.
Are you sharing the whiteboard or the newer whiteboard?
Oh, did I open up the wrong whiteboard?
It may be that because mine
All
has
right, wait a second. I'm closing this. Hold on.
everything yours has.
That's
up
not right.
until
Hold on. We want the new fancy
The
whiteboard.
fancy whiteboard. Yeah, it's a different panel.
So
Different.
the older whiteboard is called Whiteboard Classic. That's what Zoom calls it. Classic.
Why didn't they just get rid of one to the? I don't.
But I don't hold on. Now I'm really confused. When I click on whiteboards, I get this. Let me move this out of here. Sorry. I get this pop up. Oh, that's not what we wanted. I get this pop up. And then that brings us over here to the
Yeah.
whiteboard.
Just the one we had before.
This is the one we had before.
Right. Why does mine look different? I don't know.
Why that?
Let me see
That's-
if my settings are different. Because I know there's two different things. If I go to share screen or do whiteboards, and I don't see whiteboard on our bottom tray
If
as
you
activated.
it should be under more for you.
Let me see.
Yeah, on the PC, I have it. It's at whiteboards at the bottom.
Right next to apps for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine may be just. I may not be updated on this computer. I
Maybe
realize.
you're not updated, but
But so here's the thing. I'm in my Zoom account on my iPad Pro that is not logged on. I'm logged in on my MacBook Air, and my Pro has been updated. And literally the side little white panel, it goes up until the square is the same, and then underneath it there's templates which give me graphs and stuff. There's image. I can add images.
wait.
I can.
No, that's the desktop version. You have to, if you're at, so again, the whiteboard in the cloud, not desktop, on the Zoom website has different functionality than the one in meeting.
So there's two different whiteboards. There's an in-meeting whiteboard, but that desktop one you can share screen and bring into the meeting. So
Absolutely.
the one that they updated is that one, is that whiteboard platform.
No. They updated the one in meeting also, because now, right, I can highlight this text and I've got bold and italics and underline and all that stuff. So
I could always do that though, because I have an original that I made and it doesn't, like I have a screen
But
capture.
did you make it in meeting, or did
Yeah,
you
I
make it
took
out
a
of
screen
meeting?
capture of it and it did the bolding before. But there's a huge functionality difference in the new whiteboards that are shared off space that you can share in meeting. There's like way more things you can do.
But if you share those, isn't that you're just screen sharing?
No, you can work on them together in a meeting, and you can work on them so you can work on them together, but you're working on them on your own computer, but it shows up in the screen share because you're sharing the
But everyone has to have it open. But right, that's
if
different.
they want to write on it.
Right, that's different than what's happening here. What's happening here is we opened a collaborative whiteboard in a meeting, and everyone's working on the same thing.
But this one, I don't think they're doing that much functionality to, because I think they're trying to push everyone to use the others. Because the toolbar completely and radically changed on the other one.
Absolutely. I mean, I distinctly remember the fact that I was frustrated because I had beautiful images that I had set up on the web that none of them were translating over to the in meeting.
Right.
But it doesn't, these are, so I'm just looking back at the notes here. This is all new and enhanced features, meeting, webinar. No, I guess not. Sorry, this is not necessarily whiteboard in meeting.
The other thing that's interesting is, I'm presuming it's because I have a different resolution screen than you do, David, is I've added things that are clearly off camera to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, how do I? Yeah, if I zoom out, then how do you? I can't remember how you scroll in or out. Oh, there you go. So yeah, it is sort of this infinite whiteboard that you've got here.
Yeah, I don't think, I honestly think they're not going to make too many changes to this one. I think they're trying to drive everyone to the other one, because the other one, you only have a certain amount up to a certain count. So I think that's going to be where they're driving their updates, so that they can force us into paying.
And it's interesting because to me, I shouldn't say nobody, very, very few people from where I sit, very, very few people use Zoom in any other way than in meetings. Right?
Right.
So to try and push everyone to all these tools like chat, team chat, whiteboard, the phone service. I mean, if you're a business and you're all in on the Zoom platform, then that's great and that works for you. But if you're just a user, you don't live in your Zoom client. You live in Zoom meetings.
Well, and if you're going to be outside of Zoom, you might as well go to Canva's new whiteboard, because you can do everything you can do in Canva on their whiteboard. So it's kind of I think it's a pie in the sky hope that people are going to adopt this outside whiteboard for Zoom, and they probably won't, because you're right, people don't do it. There are good things about it if you are using it, but if you have a better option like Canva, which lets you do every graphic you can imagine and videos and all this stuff, then even the changes they made on their shared whiteboard space are not that helpful. I mean, the use case I used it with one of my clients, and so we've used it, but he doesn't use it as much. Like, I end up sending him a PDF of our discussions. So I think you're right.
I agree with you, David. I mean, I deal with a lot of I'll say older teenagers, and their choice actually is Kahoot.
Absolutely, or Jamboard.
Or Jamboard, one of those two, because they're free.
Right. I mean, the Zoom one is incredibly powerful, as she said, and I actually really like the way they implemented it, because they basically just the way you use the whiteboard is the way you do everything else in Canva. You just drag stuff over and create whatever you want. I think it's a really nice implementation. I haven't played with the collaborative piece of this yet, which is where Zoom, I think, is really putting its money. It's not just a whiteboard. It's something that we all create together. So in any case,
I think the one advantage of why they're driving to that outside board is that I've had this happen a lot in my meetings, where you're in a meeting, you've created a board, and then you've forgotten to save it, or someone didn't download it, and then it's all over, the game's over. And so the outside board, if you want to save it and collaborate and bring it back, it's a great idea. But then unfortunately, Canva just one-upped them, and it's like, if you're going to use an outside board, then Zoom will never have the graphic capability of Canva.
And another interesting piece of how they might be trying to, I think they are trying to brand themselves as more than just a video conferencing company, in that they have this whole suite, is this, what was it about chat? We saw this last time, that now you can send chat from a meeting, a transcript of chat from a meeting to a chat channel on Zoom.
It's
I think-
basically their little Slack, right? You know.
I
Yeah.
guess so, yeah.
But I think we're sort of taking it out of the context that they had originally designed the whiteboard for, because in the corporate environment, you need to remember that we've got conference rooms with interactive screens where people are standing giving presentations. And this is something that MS Teams has, WebEx has, and so Zoom has to have it as well. And I think that's where this is this functionality is being addressed to. It's not being addressed to individual users who are connecting up with another individual user.
So Robert, do you know, how does Whiteboard then work in those physical?
Is there, yeah, I was going to say, Robert,
And
is the
scribing made-
implication of that statement as a Zoom room knows how to talk to one of those electronic whiteboards?
Right,
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm asking, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
correct. You can connect the whiteboard up and pull this option up and then play with it and get people around it. And you've got 2 or 3 people standing around the screen and they're doing different things. So, yes.
And then the advantage is that when the meeting's over, everybody can just log onto that space and get it in the same way that you would a Google document. So I get the value of it. I think that, you know, I'm glad they added functionality to it, because when I first did it, I'm like, no, I can't. You can't make this graphic or anything. But they did in this version.
Yep.
Because the other thing that really confuses me is because if you start off not in a meeting with the whiteboard and you suddenly need to connect up to people, then you need to be able to move that into a meeting. And this is where I have the disconnect. I don't see how that works.
You can do it as a shared screen.
No, but then everyone has to open it on their own device. What
Right.
we're aiming for is something that basically a Zoom app that opens
Right.
within Zoom that everyone can access in Zoom.
Right. But I think Robert's right. It's designed to be interactive in a Zoom room where your conference room has a board where everybody's there to interact together, and then everybody can take it off on their own. Or if you don't have that, I can work on it on mine, you can work on it on yours, and then it will update. So I think that is the other piece of it. But I feel like you're right. There's a piece missing, or maybe it exists and I don't know how to do it, which is like, is there a plugin to pull it in? You know, is there an app that pulls it in to make it?
I'm not sure, because I've been playing. I now have the Zoom phone on my license, my business license. And the whole concept there is you call someone, you're having a conversation, you can move that into a meeting. But once again, if we call up and we start doing something on a whiteboard, how do we pull that into the meeting from the outside? There's some things that I just don't know.
Functionality is still being developed for a lot of the things they're giving us. They're giving us early access, or, you know, it's the first iteration or something, but it's going to become more refined over time, right?
Frank, what do you think? Where do you think? I mean, I guess we'll learn more about this at Zoomtopia, but where do you think Zoom is going with all of this stuff? I mean, is there play to become the new Office suite for enterprise or small businesses?
I think they're positioned the same way a lot of their competitors are positioned. You're marketing to governments, to school boards, to corporations. When we evaluate products, we put out an RFP, if you're familiar with that term, or request for proposal, and we usually score everything. And a lot of companies will put a not developed feature into their product early, so that the checkbox next to Whiteboard is there. And then when you line up the scores for all the competitors of the different tools you're evaluating, you can say, yeah, it has a whiteboard. Is it a great whiteboard? Well, maybe it's not the best whiteboard, but has all these other desirable features. And then they keep iterating, so eventually the tool maybe becomes more robust.
Yeah.
But they're trying to succeed in those RFP competitions, right? All the companies do that, right?
Yeah, we had mentioned Canva before. Canva is doing something similar, I think, with Docs. They, at their event, they announced Canva Docs. Of course, no one can do anything with it yet because it's just sign me up, I'm interested.
Because we're all waitlisted.
But But right. But again, I think you're right. They were able to put a check next to that box saying, this is something that we either offer or will be offering.
Well, schools or companies have limited money for technology too, right? So you can't buy every single product you want to buy. So you look at the bigger players in the space, and if they offer you some of the functionality, maybe it's not the most robust, but it has the core functionality, and it does all the other things you wanted to do. That's where you're going to spend your money, because at least it gets you in the game, right?
And I
Yep.
imagine their large corporate people have the same kind of access that we have in how we want things for production purposes. There's large corporations who use Zoom who probably also are feeding into what we need is this, and those changes are going to be prioritized by those larger companies.
Though the wild card there is, who is Zoom competing against there? Right.
That's actually a really interesting question, Peter.
Yeah,
And who
because
is in some ways they're competing against Microsoft Teams only because Microsoft is so ubiquitous in the
And
business world.
Verizon's Blue Jeans, like Disney only uses that. So you have a major corporation. I'm sure Disney, if Disney wants something, they're going to do it because they've got a huge corporation that's using them. So it's kind of like, where did people start first, and then and who are they? So I think all of those, I don't
It's-
think behind
it's
the
how
scenes,
big a
there's-
check does that corporate client write?
yeah, like they're behind the scenes, like I don't think anybody competes with Zoom. But if you had if you already invested into one of them, then you're going to try to keep they're going to try to keep you happy, and you're going to try to make sure your investment wasn't a bad one by being in on that feedback.
You know-
Again, it gets the question of who they want to go, because I can speak to like the government of Canada, the federal government of Canada signed off on a Microsoft Teams E5 license for every employee of the government of Canada. Teams comes with that. Guess what they're using for their video conferencing? Teams. Why would they go out for RFP on something else?
And also,
can't-
guys, too, I don't know if you are aware or not, but again, not only do I follow the Zoom world as I'm here with you guys every week, but I also follow all the other streaming technologies out there. And Epiphan this week has released Epiphan Connect. And that Epiphan Connect is a cloud service that now allows broadcasters to bring in pretty close to a ZoomISO equivalent for Microsoft Teams,
right,
in the cloud.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. One of the things that I don't remember who mentioned, I think it was here at some point, but it's so important for us to remember that we're all strange in that we're using Zoom in ways that is such a small minority of what who their market is. In some ways, I think, they're if they can sell 100 million pro licenses, that's much more powerful than
right.
1 million business licenses, I think. Or those of us who are yearning for ZoomISO or ZoomOSC or better whiteboards. I mean, I think that it's important to remember that those of us who do this, who spend all day in Zoom, we're edge cases in many ways.
But I think we give them the possibility of what Zoom can be, which is a whole other market, right? Because if this was a broadcast quality level, then you ultimately, that is a big market. If you can, target, they lost a lot of the education market early on because their security was bad and they had people popping up into classrooms. And so like that was their number one thing in 2020 was fixing that security issue, because no one at Zoom ever anticipated that kids would go into classrooms in Zoom. So in that sense, like people had to switch over. So I think that, this is like any other corporation, wherever the need is, they're going to play in all the markets, and, they're going to play in the market that we're in, and because, we come with a lot of money, potentially, and then they're going to play in the layperson's market. And I think that the surprise for everybody was the pandemic made it so that people who would have never been Zoom clients, ever, they would never have gone to a meeting like this, were suddenly Zoom, like clients of Zoom, so I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. There's another thing. I think we are edge users of this specific product, but they've made a product for us. We just don't want to use it. I mean, they have made Zoom events specifically for us, but none of us are using it because we have our ways of doing things, and we seem to like them because they work. Yeah. We feel comfortable using them. We know how to use them. We know how to bend them. We know how to push them to their limits. And we're not in the right place at the moment. That's my feeling.
And I think David would agree with me that for certain groups of people, churches, synagogues, youth centers, youth groups, Zoom events is overkill for 90% of the stuff we do.
So I'm actually, I'm doing I'm hosting an event for a government organization in Baltimore, and they didn't want to use Zoom events because they felt like the challenge with one of the challenges with Zoom events is that if people log into the event from a different email, then they won't have access, and that would be a real struggle. And so we were going back and forth about where in Zoom should we host. There are about 700-800 participants in this. And I pushed them toward meetings. I said, let's just have it in a meeting. I think that there's tremendous value in people knowing that they're being seen, as opposed to a webinar where you don't have to, you can, for me, I zone out. And that we can use breakout rooms for those sort of the breakout sessions. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for me, at least, for sometimes simpler is better. Last week, you'll have to forgive me, I've forgotten her name. She mentioned Room 3D, which I immediately signed up for. So this is Room 3D. They definitely need to work on their keying here, but it's a neat little, I mean, it's like all the other ones, I guess. It's, it's kind of cool. You can move around, you can switch seats. Let's see, where am I? How do I move myself? Oh, okay. Now I have no idea how to move myself. I just,
so how do the other chairs get filled?
When other people join.
Oh.
So here you've got, this has got a whiteboard right built in. So now people can draw all over the whiteboard, I guess. Yeah. And,
ooh, they have color.
And they have color. I don't know. Look, I can't stand, I mean, if I had to sit in a meeting and look at this all day, I'd probably shoot myself. But,
I mean, Zoom kind of has that with the gallery view that you can populate.
Oh yeah. With
like,
the, what's it called? Immersive?
Immersive, yeah. And I've not done it, so but every time I look at it, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. But I don't know. This is it's look, it's fun. It's not something I'd want to actually do business in, but it's fun. So.
I've just come back. I've been attending a 3-day conference where I spoke on a platform that's name, I'm not going to say the name out loud, but they use the Zoom SDK to just to provide the video and audio. And to be very honest with you, you need to use the very same email that you logged in originally. I mean, those limitations that are on Zoom events are actually coming. They are out there on other event platforms. It's just that we're not using an event platform. We're using a webinar or a meeting platform, so we don't have those issues. And I understand what you're saying is that we need a simple solution. But for producers, I think we should be looking at Zoom events. That's one thing. Secondly is the event that I attended was a hybrid. And to be very honest with you, it had nothing to do with a hybrid. The whole concept of having a hybrid is so bizarre on the market at the moment, where some people think a hybrid is just sticking a camera into a room, physical conference room where people, and it's not. There's no interaction. There's no two-way interaction. There's no. Andy spoke about this in the last Zoom test kitchen of just. Sorry, not Andy, but Sam Gagaiko, that catching the room sound just to bring in the ambience of actually being in there. That's got nothing. I mean, when we listen to Sam and what they're doing on Zoom events, they are in a different league of event production. And we have that. It's at our reach. We need to start playing with it.
No, I agree. And look, the trade-off or the challenge, I think, which is Zoom has been struggling with since the get-go, is security versus ease of use. Right? If you require people to log in with the email with which they registered, and we saw this in the release notes also, I think, right? That they're not putting the link now on for meetings even. They're not putting the link when you register for a meeting on the confirmation page. If they didn't require emails for Zoom events, I think there would be a huge backlash because it would be ripe for Zoom bombing and everything else.
Right.
So
but I use like Luma for my events. And so they have to log in. They do have to register for Luma. They get the email. They don't get the link until an hour before.
What's Luma?
And it's LU, and then there's like a .ma, and it's basically a event. It's frankly the cheaper version than doing a Zoom event or doing something like Obvio or an event platform. You can create a little community if you want to. They send, I did it because I run a writing retreat every month, and I started to grow past the point where I could send out those emails.
So wait, so how does so you're not using Zoom at all? This is
no, you are using Zoom. It interacts with Zoom. So when I set up my meeting,
really?
It will create a link for Zoom, and I am using the free one. Like I have had no reason not to. It's really the size of your meeting. So they get a little email, they have to register, which is just their name and their email. Then they get a link. And then what I like about it is it gives me all the analytics of when I've sent out a blast email to be like, hey, tomorrow's the thing or whatever. I can set all that ahead of time, but it gives me who opened it, how many people opened it, what the reach was when people log into my meeting. Then it tells me if they showed up or not, which I can't get in Zoom. So that's the cheaper way of doing it. My problem with events is that it seems to be super expensive for something that I can, some of the groups that I do things with, I'm barely getting them to do what the fun stuff that we're doing. Like they're just not there yet.
This is cool.
So this I got, I'll credit who I got it from because I watched her video. Kat Mulville.
Oh, sure.
Used it. And I was like, let me try it. You can do more with it than what I do with it because you can actually create a community. So if you have a event, it'll copy my event from last time to the next time. And then all my attendees are there. I can categorize my attendees by I can put tags for them, and I can send certain people emails, be like, hey, you're presenting that day. Could you come at this time? Like I can, if a link changes, I can actually change the link. If something breaks, that has happened to me before, I can do that behind the scenes.
This is crazy. So I logged in, or I signed up, I should say, with my Zoom account. How did it even do this? I didn't.
Right. So you can create a community. Like that's the community page. You can edit all of that stuff. I think it's a little texty, but you can. Even in the emails that you set up, you can add pictures.
Check this out. This is beautiful, right? So if you're doing it in Zoom, first of all, I love that it's just right there. And because I logged in with my Zoom account, it's going to find all of my upcoming Zoom meetings.
Yep. You can assign people to those meetings, or it will create a new meeting. The other thing that's great, which I used, is it does link up with your Stripe account. So if you have to have a paid event, you can have a paid event or a free event. which is why I started using it. I just needed a quick down and dirty way.
So wait, so when people, so this doesn't solve the ease of access problem because people are still needing to log in with the email that they sign up for.
No,
here.
it actually is even easier than that because they get a button that literally says join the meeting, and they join the meeting, and they don't see what the Zoom looks like. They're just in the meeting. The button takes them there. It
takes them into Zoom.
Into Zoom for the meeting. Yeah. So it provides a dashboard for it. And it can be when you go to set it up, it says, do you want a free event? Do you want a paid event? Do you want a sliding? You can have discount codes. You can have all the things you would have on any kind of ticketing site.
Okay. So, but then what Zoom Events offers, which is, I mean, I think you're right. This is sort of the cheap version. I mean, this will connect you to a meeting. Zoom Events, you've got the lobby, you've got all concurrent sessions, you've got all that other stuff built in.
So
Yeah, I'm not knocking Zoom Events at all.
No,
it's just I'm a keep it simple kind of guy. And so for me personally, for this particular event.
Yeah, that's why I went to this, because so my monthly event is a choose your own adventure writing retreat. I open the room for 14 hours, second Saturday of every month. People come in whenever they feel like it. They greet me in the lobby, and then they have a bunch of breakout rooms that they can self-select to go into. So they can go into a room that has a clock that does Pomodoro. They can go into a whiteboard room. They can go into a quiet room where they're writing with other people. So for me, I created the lobby and then the event rooms with breakout rooms. And because they can self-select, they go wherever they want to go. And this actually lets me put what the general schedule is, because we don't require people to come to that breakout. We have some classes, and sometimes we have a discussion block, but we let people, if they want to write, they can write. If they want to be in the discussion block, they can.
Event series.
So this lets me, my event series is great because I can just do every second Saturday for the entire year, and it just populates everything. People can choose how many Saturdays they want to go to. It's super, I mean, this is the cheap way of doing it. So for some of us who are dealing with youth organizations or things where Zoom events, which I agree would be amazing if you have that level, this is the cheap and down and dirty version of that.
I was going to say, I think you just saved me a bunch of work.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to play with this later. That's again, Zoom. If your event requires, the lobby and the what do they call it? Not the showroom. The
green room.
No, where you can walk around to different,
like your exhibitors,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, Zoom Events has all of that. So this is not a replacement for that, but as a gateway to meetings, this is really nice.
And if you wanted, so the other thing that you could do is you could run a separate Zoom meeting, which I've done. I've done 2 Zoom meetings at a time where I've had an after party in one Zoom meeting, and I just have an after party link. I create a link on that page, and people who've left my event, they go over to the after party, and I have a host in the after party playing music for them. So that there is ways to have even that exhibitors hall. You just create a dashboard, which you could do right in that thing, and then say, this is the dashboard. This is the link for, to go into the exhibitors hall. They'd be leaving one Zoom meeting and going into another Zoom meeting, but from the user experience, that's just their dashboard that they'd go from. There are other systems that do it better. Like Grant Whitehead created Obvio with Blue Melnick, like that it does essentially what Zoom Events did. They just did it a little bit sooner. So this is like absolutely, like, you have no money and people are need a little bit of support. But the other thing too is that there's a chat there. So people if you use the community page and you create a community page for them, it kind of acts like a little website. They could chat with you. So for me, if someone's having problems getting in, or they need some support, they can just pop a thing in a chat, and I can have that up in another window, and I can serve them in that way without having any extra bells and whistles that are just not too difficult,
Is Obvio is still not available to normal people like us? Is that correct?
I don't know, because I've gone to like every one of his TVE things. That's kind of
Yeah.
how I fell randomly into this part of the world. So I don't know. I mean, I know it's been up and running for a couple years now.
I don't think it's widely available yet.
It's still like there are things. I mean, it's still expensive. It's it's $1,000 or a little more than that, 1,500 or something a year. So you have to do a certain number of events. I don't do enough of those high level events because a lot of my events are, communities that I serve. So, I needed a much cheaper solution than that.
Okay.
Although
It is here. Looks like $2,000 a year, 3
Yeah.
organization. If this is the right thing, I don't.
it
even
is
know.
that looks right. I would say if you're interested
Yeah.
in it, wait till November and just go to TVE for $97 and they'll give you some kind of discount.
Yeah.
Or
That's cool.
the advantage of that is that you can do multiple rooms and you the quality is 1080 always, like, so there's definite advantages to that, but it felt like depending on the size of your events, like you could run out of credits pretty quickly or you could not use the service as quickly. So
Tamara, I just want to say thank you because I've looked at Luma in the past and I haven't been able to figure out what they actually do.
it's a
from the
terrible
website.
website. And even the community thing that they set up, it's so well-meaning, but I'm like, well, let me just dump this and write it the way I would write it. But I've played with it now for almost 6 months and done multiple events on them, both paid and non-paid. And I'm like, this is a pretty cheap answer to like what I do, because I can make that, I had built a website for it, but updating it was like so difficult. And this is just, I go in, I copy the thing from last month, I send it out to 150 people and I can see when they've replied. And so it kind of takes the functionality of a website and a like chipmunk, what is it? Any kind of contact program that sells
MailChimp or something like that.
Yeah, MailChimp, and hooks up with my Zoom. It is down and dirty. It doesn't do everything you want it to do. It's definitely ugly. Like you have to really play around with it. But if you have lower events and you can kind of design internally what your event is going to look like, because I use multiple computers and iPads and I project different things into, whatever room you go into looks vastly different than the room you were in before. But so if you can kind of create that environment on your own and people are satisfied with that environment, then you can sit in the front room and invite people in, help them navigate themselves, and they wander around freely like any other conference.
Thank you.
Well, now I'm going to be doing this all weekend.
Yeah.
Well, you were the one who like set
When
me
I
on
should
doing
be,
all
I
kinds
should
of
be
stuff.
getting ready for Yom Kippur, Peter. All right. So I have a ZoomOSC question, I think, which I'm hoping someone can help me with. So does anyone know, I want to send ZoomOSC into a breakout room and have ZoomOSC have the same functionality in that breakout room that it would in the main meeting. Does anyone know why that wouldn't work? Or can we try it?
We can try it. I'm racking my brains from the days when Andy was showing us the functionality with Jeff, and I forget his name, the guy from the theater, the young guy who used to set up all of these 1,000 virtual users.
Right.
And I recall that it doesn't go to that layer. You can open breakout rooms, manage them, but you can't.
I would bet you'd have to figure out how to have a unique ZoomOSC client join the breakout room.
Right. No, that's so okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open breakout rooms, and I named one ZoomOSC test, and I put my ZoomOSC client in there.
Okay.
If
do you want me to go over there?
a couple people want to go in and join, then we can see what happens.
Oh.
All right, so Robert is going in.
This is interesting. It's not offering me the option to join that room. Must be because
Yeah.
I'm a.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either, David.
I'm not seeing breakout rooms, but I could be on a lower system.
So if you click on breakout rooms in the bottom,
I don't have it on the bottom.
Doesn't exist.
why
Yeah,
doesn't
so
it
it's not
exist?
hooked in, probably on your back end.
No, I can, because Robert just joined.
Oh,
I can assign Peter to it.
I have an old Zoom, but not that old.
So I'll send Peter over there. Okay, so now, yeah, so now
How bizarre.
spot.
Is it self-selecting?
Yeah, you can self-select it.
That is super strange. I don't have it at all.
So David, just for our sake, you haven't opened it up to everybody to see breakout rooms. You just specifically made one and assigning people to it.
No. I opened all the breakout
Are they
rooms.
co-hosts? Oh, mine, I don't see it.
Oh, they're
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either.
They're co-hosts. Is that why?
So they can
Why?
see it. So I don't think you've hit the open button.
No, I did.
I don't see it.
Why? Okay, wait a second. Let me close the room. Maybe it wasn't set to. Let me see. Oh, I know
Well,
why.
it might not have been set to
No,
self-select.
yeah. This was not
Yeah.
allow participants to choose rooms. Apologies for that.
Okay.
All right, so here's what I saw for what it's worth. What I saw is in ZoomOSC, the names of the people in that breakout room came up on my Stream Deck, but I don't think you can spotlight in a breakout room. Can you?
I don't think I've ever spotlighted in a breakout.
Can
Wait, no, I have spotlighted in a breakout room.
Can you spotlight in a breakout room?
Yes,
I
you
think
can spotlight.
You can.
breakout
I
room.
have. I did it with an author event a couple weeks ago.
David, but going back to Andy's days on OSC, doesn't the breakout room have a different meeting ID? And then when we go in there, we actually get different IDs, etc. So there's nothing that I'm sort of missing something here between.
Yeah, breakout rooms are essentially a shadow meeting in the background because you're assigned a new meeting number.
Right. All right. I'm going to let me open the rooms again, and let's have, I'm going to send
All right, now I
myself in
see
there
it for
again.
sure.
Okay, so he's in a breakout room. I'm in a breakout room. All right, so now I've got, for those of you who aren't in the breakout room, let me actually share. So this is the breakout room over here on my OSC or ISO computer. Let me make sure I have the audio off. I do.
David, is your ISO computer assigned co-host capability?
Yes.
Okay, because that's the
So
other.
now on my Stream Deck, which is running OSC, I've got these three folks. Maybe the issue is speaker, spot. See, the problem is that I can't tell if it's spotlighting because I've got a, all right.
Are you trying? Hey guys, this is Jeff.
Hey Jeff. All right, hold on.
Jeff,
let me close this and have them all come back, and maybe they can tell us if
yeah, you can't spotlight in a breakout room.
you can't spotlight in a breakout room.
No.
I swear I've done it before, but maybe not.
No, I think you can pen locally, but spotlight isn't supported.
That really stinks. So Robert and whoever, Mike, who was anything changing as I was spotlighting you guys?
No, nothing was
No.
changing. We were talking away, and the meeting number, just as a matter of interest, is identical.
Well, the other thing to look at, David, is when your ZoomOSC machine is in the breakout room and you're attempting to do anything, in this case, spotlighting, have your log window up so you can see
Oh, right.
what ZoomOSC is doing and what it's getting in return.
Yeah.
and it's actually pretty helpful.
So it says
But yeah,
interesting.
spot-
It says, yeah. Okay. It actually says host privileges required. Oh, no, that's from something else. Okay. So that's interesting. So if you have a speaker in each breakout room, is focus mode the only way to kind of, can you do focus mode in breakout rooms?
I don't know, but I would guess no.
You can tell everyone to turn their cameras off, and then that would be the way to get the person on stage.
So it's like telling the audience to close their eyes.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
it's like-
We do it. It's crazy.
Which defeats
Yeah.
which defeats
Right.
the whole purpose. The whole purpose for me is
Right.
that I want people to be seen.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing creatively that I could think of is sharing your second virtual camera, because share will go full screen in a breakout
Yeah.
room, and if you
That's
share
what
the
I was
virtual
thinking.
camera,
So one of the things I've done is I've put my speakers or my panelists into another breakout room, and then I bring that breakout room in with like an ATEM into as a shared screen. So then you're sharing your screen. I think that might work. I don't know. I haven't ever tried it in exactly that way, but it seems like if you brought it in as in a different way, then that might take over the room. Because I think you can share screen in a breakout room, right?
Oh yeah.
So if
Yep.
so then all you do is you put a second computer that has your person in a breakout room by themselves, and then you bring them in that way. The question is, can they hear back? That's the other, because it's a fake interaction. I think that might work. It'd be worth trying, but I'm not sure.
I've
I
just
asked-
checked up in the Zoom community, and apparently you cannot spotlight in a breakout room.
Right. I think you'd have to bring them in as a guest through a separate camera source and share screen. That's how I think you'd have to do it.
yeah, I
And
think
put
so as
them-
well.
Put them
Or
in at their own space.
Keynote supports live cameras now, and so you could share
Oh.
your keynote and knowing that the keynote has your camera embedded
Right.
in it, and
Right.
that could be live. I asked Andy a interesting question last night. I said, quick question. I said, if I were to add, which I have, if I were to add the Breakout Room 100 add-on to my account, I can open up 100 breakout rooms.
Mhm.
And the documentation says clearly that each breakout room can support up to 1,000 users. Does that mean I can have a Zoom meeting with 100,000 attendees? Because that's how it multiplies by the way it reads. And so he asked for a link to the documentation, and he looked at it. He agreed that it read and could easily be understood that way. And they updated that explanation today. It's fixed. It's like, because that's not the result. Like,
You can, but
because
it would,
and I said, if I could support 100,000 by the math, it looks like you support 100,000. Knowing that I'd have to have like an Isadora engine automatically distributing people to breakout rooms upon entry, right? So we'd have to pace them and dispatch them, but being able to do that's really possible, and they could never come back to the main session. So he clarified. I don't know. I haven't asked him.
I think it would kill just every time I get too many people in a Zoom meeting, it just drags the whole system down. And you put one iPhone in there and it's like crazy. So
Yeah.
That's a
On a-
mobile. That's a
on a-
mobile
on a-
issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
iPhones
Yeah.
don't travel in and out of breakout rooms well. And I'm hoping that was solved in that update. I haven't checked it yet.
I join office hours. I've joined office hours in their breakout room method now each morning on my iPhone, and I have no issues.
So when I've gotten more than 100 people into a space, then it's not a huge issue, but like the orientation changes. So like if someone came in, when I was bringing people in as they were actors being brought in, the actor's literal orientation would shift to the side for everybody in the room. You have to be like, just flip yourself over. Like, because it doesn't travel well. And then the stability, the likelihood of iPhone and iPad users has been the most, like 100% of the time, anybody who's been knocked out of the meeting has been on an iPhone or iPad. So I'm hoping that update actually solved that. And it isn't consistent. It's not like people are like, I go to meetings all the time. I know you do. I promise you, I will break that for you, because as soon as we get 100 people and then all like cameras on, like that's the other issue too. When I have cameras on, it takes the stability of the system down. So whenever I was having, that's why I said with a guest, you almost do want to have the cameras off, because if you had 100 people in a breakout room with their camera on, it makes the system pretty unstable.
Yeah, but I almost, and you guys, well, we don't have the numbers, but you could test I think the default behavior of moving somebody into a breakout room is cameras on. Even if they were off, they're gonna get turned on in the breakout room, I believe.
Yeah, we like instructed the auditors to do it. But it's
So Jeff, you don't think it honors the way you've initially set up the meeting?
I think no, I don't think so.
I feel like it doesn't either.
Because you can set up the meeting to say cameras off for participants.
Yeah, but we tested this, and I should have taken stronger notes. But you may want to. I would encourage you to test this again, because it's kind of like it inherits some things from the main meeting, like if you have under the security badge, participants can't unmute themselves, and no video and so forth. You test those things and see what carries, or like have sharing not enabled in the main session, and then go to a breakout room and see if you can share. I'll let you know, you won't be able to. You have to enable it first and then go to the breakout room.
Right.
I don't recall the carry forward on the mics and the video necessarily going to the breakout room. I do know coming back, everybody comes back muted, no matter the circumstance. But there's some interesting kind of built-in behaviors that phone brackets not helping me. Sorry.
Hey, Jeff, before you go anywhere, one of the updates was enhanced CarPlay support. So you're in a car. What can you tell us?
Oh, yeah. I was going to look at that today I had a 5-hour drive this morning. Let me.
He may not, David, Jeff, you may not have it, because if the client on the phone,
update.
The client on the phone had an update, you haven't.
Yeah, let me check that. Let me see.
Well, I'd be surprised if your client updated, Jeff, because David and I haven't gotten our updates to the iPhone client yet.
And while he's doing that,
they're not
welcome
even
Kirsten.
available yet.
Yeah, no, last time was what, 3 weeks ago? We figured that out earlier.
3 weeks ago was the last update.
Yep. So it's going through whatever Apple process is now going through.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look here.
How are you, Kirsten? It's good to see you. Good. Good.
It's late there.
Kirsten, where are you again?
I'm still in Europe and in Germany.
In Germany. It is late there.
Well, it's GMT +4, right?
The same time zone, I think, as Robert.
Yeah,
Like
We-
7 hours.
So GMT +4.
yeah, 11:30 here.
Oh
PM.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Some die-hard Zoom test kitchen
Oh, so-
folks right there.
So GMT +8.
During
sorry,
daylight savings time, yeah.
Tamara, can I just ask
excuse
you
me, +5.
Tamara, can I just ask you a question? Is when you lose the stability of Zoom,
Mhm.
is it just at your end or is it everyone?
No, it becomes a little unstable it starts doing some wiggy things. So we actually on the last event, now I pushed Zoom to do what Zoom was never meant to do, which is bring 150 actors into a room, into 60 or 70 producers and casting directors, Broadway producers and casting directors. So the way that we did this is we set up a backstage area with dressing rooms. So they would come into the main room. And because actors came in groups of 10 throughout the day, we did it over 2 days. Because they came in groups of 10, we had 2 different dressing rooms. So they would be put into their dressing room with their dressing room host. And then I had a main person checking people in and also doing a tech check right before they were to go on. All of the auditors came, the producers and casting directors came before anybody started. We put them into the breakout room, our breakout room 1, which was the auditorium. They were already preset in there. Actors would come in, they'd go to one of their 2 dressing rooms. About 5 minutes before they were going to go on, they were pulled from the dressing room to the main room, which you can now do sort of. You can request someone goes to come back to the main room. But last year they had to actually exit and enter themselves. I can pull them now. So the main lobby tech people pulled them, checked their tech. They went into a backstage area, which was just a stage manager and, the people who were ready to go on stage. And then I had a stage manager inside the room with me. And that stage manager would welcome the actor in. They would have 2 minutes to perform. After they were done, that stage manager inside would put them back in the backstage, and the backstage stage manager would put the next person in. So we were using it in kind of a pretty dramatic way, right? So there's certain things that you can't do. If I pull someone from one breakout room into the main room, I can't put them back into the same place. I have to kind of bounce them to another room, back into that room. So there's just little wiggy things. And we had about especially on the day where we were singing, where we had everybody on original sound and we really were straining the system. When we were on that day, it was kind of unstable for everybody. It was pretty much for each of those things has their own instability too, right? So someone would be like, I can't see. I'd be like, dude, it is your internet access. So when you're dealing with that, you're dealing with everyone's personal internet access and then the stability of your site in general. We just found, and there's no reason for it. It shouldn't work this way, but especially on the singing day, we kicked everybody out for lunch and we rebooted and had them log in because it just the first day it would move people randomly into places that they were never meant to go. We're like, how did they get on stage? So there isn't a good reason for it. There's no reason it should do any of the things that I've seen, and yet it happens. So so that's I can only tell by anecdotal things over 50 of these events that it isn't as stable when you get more people on there. It does drain things. We found we had our cameras off, it was fine. When we had them on, it was just a little more unstable. It also depended on, iDevices, which work in 99.9% of the circumstances. But when you use them in this way, they were the most likely people to get bounced off.
And this was with ZoomOSC or without?
No, this was without. I'm using regular
Okay.
Zoom to the most maximum. You shouldn't be able to do it that way. So we kind of expect that there's, you know, that's why I met with David yesterday. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to grow my babies with like ZoomOSC or whatever I have to do to give myself more functionality, because we're doing it pretty manually. And over the course of the last 2 years, Zoom has given us little gifts along the way, like the ability for, you know, last year, even though you technically were supposed to be able to have a co-host and a host move people in and out of breakout rooms, it wasn't true if people were on a PC or a Mac. Sometimes my Mac people would get locked out. That has stabilized. That problem, whatever that was, is gone. You know, and this year we were able to get a workflow where everybody had a job of who was moving people in and out, and that worked out fine.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, like your confidence level, you know, in, you know, there's always this inherent risk the moment the host adds a co-host and another and another, right? And there's no sure way. I've never made the call. I'm assuming that there is an audit log at Zoom deep in the you know, logs of data, but it's not easily accessible to us that says, did somebody at this time do that, you know?
Right.
But the chances of it being done, like I was hired as a freelancer to run this event, and all of a sudden I'm getting that by the show caller because something went away, and I just quickly said, I didn't do that.
Right.
And well, you know, and I'm not going to continue that discussion until after the show's over, but they had also insisted that these 8 people be co-hosts.
Right.
I'm like, what can I do? You're handcuffing me, you know?
Yeah. On my events, part of what I do is I manage everybody's expectations. So knowing what I know about Zoom, I was in the room with the auditors, and I said, these are the expectations that we're going to have as viewers, and you know, we're going to be calm and happy. I also pre-tech almost everybody who goes in, you know, to just make sure that their system can go in and out of breakout rooms. The first time I did an event, not everybody could go into breakout rooms. They've fixed that. People in Chromebooks can now travel into a breakout room. Who knew? They couldn't do it before. You know, so I think so we also had a group chat that we had going on through our phones. And then I also had a chat with my indoor stage manager. So I was giving notes and managing that. I have a producing partner who was managing the tech part of it. So you kind of you have to have communication, but I also think you have to set expectations.
Let me, I just want to jump in real quick because Frank has his hand up and wants to contribute something.
I have a question. We have thousands of Zoom meetings every day, and I'm not hearing these kind of problems. But we enforce a minimum version requirement. Are you doing that, or are you allowing people with old versions of Zoom to try to mesh with people with the latest Zoom?
We require them to be we give them the parameters ahead of time, and I usually check them whether, I have people of varying levels of of computer capabilities.
Sure.
So I know for a fact that is probably not happening.
Okay,
And
so you're not using the automated check either then, which is what I think Frank was referring
so I
to.
have used that, so I did use that, but that does require them to be on the exact email and all of that.
Yeah. So the way I've got it set up for my organization, you can't join the meeting if you don't have the minimum required version that we require of you. You won't get into the meeting. You'll get a message from the Zoom interface saying that you need to upgrade.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, and on top of that, there's some new features over the last several months, like the new enhanced waiting room options. With the video and this and that. That's one. I'm trying to think of the other one. There's 2 or 3 in particular that
polls. There's a bunch of them.
And Frank, one of the reasons that I don't turn that on is because prior to ZoomISO 2.0, ZoomISO couldn't join Zoom.
The
meetings.
SDK was too old in ZoomISO,
right?
But they updated it recently.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, they've updated the SDK along with they use a different login method, right? They log in via Zoom and then come back to ZoomISO, and so that helped a lot as well. But there's a few. I mean, almost every feature has its minimum version requirement noted, but there's 2 or 3 particular features. Waiting room's just an example. The enhanced waiting room, that if you don't upgrade to the required version, you won't be allowed into the meeting, period. And I feel like that's even an easier, because what Frank has talked about is a built-in feature, and it's been there for quite a while now, is this minimum version requirement. And you can make them different versions per platform and the whole bit. I mean, it can be pretty granularly defined. But if you just turn on one of those features like the waiting room,
Right.
it will require it, and or they don't get in. And because now they've got this auto upgrade that will make a lot easier. You don't have to have a tech savvy person be able to accomplish it. It'll prompt you. You say yes, and it'll do the rest.
I think
so
we
it's gotten
did
a lot
use.
easier.
I feel like we did use a waiting room in this particular event.
Yeah.
I just think some of your problems might be related to the fact that you've got people on Zoom 512 with people on Zoom 5.5.
Very well could be that.
And also next month, I think on the 22nd or something, Zoom is forcing an upgrade to all users. Going forward, I think they're only going to support versions for 9 months, is what I read.
Oh,
so you're basically gonna have to upgrade every 9 months anyways. But
what kind of license do you have? Is it a business license or a pro?
I'm using a pro account. I've got 4 pro accounts. Not quite up to the 10.
If you can negotiate a little bit less than 10 from what I hear, and they'll still give you business. The advantage of it is it gives you that advanced console, and you know, during and after, you can get this. You can know if that person was on wireless or wired, and their CPU, so cool, and what version they were running, and the whole bit. It's very detailed, and it really helps you understand the possible dynamics contributing to either success or challenges.
Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting about the versions is that some features will force a version update or not let you join the meeting. Other features simply won't be there. I mean, here's just one example. You can only get the coffee cup icon if you are on 5.7.3, which is so interesting to me that, like, that's so random. But why is it that some of these are, you know, will force the upgrade but others won't? Others just are able to not show up.
More modern code probably requires it. But you said something funny, the coffee cup. I find that funny, but I think I read an article where it said that Apple users are pretty compliant about staying up to date compared to other mobile devices. But it's because of things like new avatars and new chat emojis are a driving force for people to update, not because they want stability or security patches, but they want the new emojis.
Right.
Well, and the fact is it may not be a hard-coded reason behind it. It may just be, let's create this because it's a trend out there, and as a result, we'll get a lot more upgraded customers, which quiets their help desk down. I don't know if that's truly, you know, part of the concept, but it could be.
I'm trying to find the options that require the bump, and I actually can't find any. They're all just
well, the waiting room definitely was. It has a yellow highlighted paragraph towards the bottom of it that lets you know that.
There's a bunch of them. Advanced polls was one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's in maybe it's not in the regular settings. Maybe it's over in this other, you know, the account management section.
No, they're under settings as well.
Usually there's a warning next to the setting saying if you enable this.
No, I know that's so
Yeah.
in waiting room. I mean, the waiting room, there's nothing here. That's fine. Customize waiting.
At the bottom of that, it doesn't say.
No. It's usually part of the like the one of these guys.
No, it actually, it's not. It didn't used to be a hover pop up. It would be kind of in your face, letting you know. But now you have the advanced waiting room as well. You can do a video or a logo or
Yeah, I don't think that's
whatnot.
advanced. I think that's just a new feature that they put out there.
Well, when they released it, they pasted out there, and you had to call in and request it. They actually released it, and then they pulled it back for a few
That I
months.
remember, sure.
Yeah, and then they put it back out there. But yeah, maybe with the auto updates, they don't have to publish that warning anymore. I'm not sure. It's hard to keep up.
It really is. It really is.
So I'm sitting out at a ball field in Auburn, Illinois, football field, and we're going to broadcast it tonight again. And in front of me is the stadium, and I'm literally backed up to a cornfield. And just like, I'll be up on the press box tonight on a camera, and if I turn around 180, it's just a massive cornfield.
Field of
Like,
dreams.
wow, talking about being in the boons. But it's gorgeous out. It's not raining this week.
Be shoeless Joe Jackson. I'll show up.
So where are you exactly, Jeff?
Auburn, Illinois.
Okay.
Auburn,
I mean,
Illinois.
worse could be in Nebraska.
yeah. I grew up a lot of my years as a kid in Nebraska, and I don't miss it a bit. Yeah, I grew even like when I was in junior high. A lot of us, that first summer job, you're out there detasseling corn or rogan beans or whatnot. It's just miserable work, but it was money.
Yep.
Jeff, quick question on audio. Now that they've modified the original sound for musicians, now they call it.
I know. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. So I noticed now that I believe in the last version, and I can't find it anymore in the new version, that I can't default set original sound to be on when I join a meeting. Was that ever a function? I remember it being a function, but that doesn't mean I remember it properly.
It's not under settings though. So if you go into original sound and check the box that says, hey, put the button on my screen so I can just push it around, there's a little drop down arrow to the right side of that button. And that's what you do is you select the microphone that says when this microphone is, or when this input device is selected, make sure original sound is on. That's where the option is.
That carrot is not visible right now.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'm noticing that also.
Interesting.
And in fact, I don't even see on my end, I don't even see the option to turn on original audio.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either, David, to be honest.
All I do is click on it and it toggles.
No, I don't have that toggle, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
well, that is under your audio settings.
No, that it was always up in the top left.
No. In order to get it visible in the top left, you have to go to audio settings first and check a box that says.
No, that I know. I have that. I've always had that checked.
Well, I would go toggle it then. Turn it off and then turn it back on and see if it shows up.
So where is it? I don't even see.
Yeah, because they changed. It's interesting now, and I'm on the PC, so I'll do PC information here. So audio profile now is I have two choices. I have Zoom optimized audio.
Yeah, so
or I have original sound from musicians.
I can actually show you what's going on here. I just figured it out, I think. So sorry for the the whatever.
Yeah, they
Infinity.
renamed it.
To
Okay.
infinity and beyond.
Yeah. Right. This we looked at before, right? We've got Zoom optimized audio and original sound for musicians. When I have Zoom optimized audio selected, up in my meeting, there is no option to select to change it. But as soon as I switch it to original sound for musicians, I don't know why it's not showing up now. I think it's because I'm in this weird view. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Sorry. I see it. So you can see right here, it's so hard to see. I'm sorry, guys. But you can see right here, original sound for musicians off. And so now I can toggle it.
Oh.
If I have it checked as Zoom optimized audio, you'll see it disappears.
Yeah, it's the same thing. They just renamed it. It
Well,
used to
no,
be like
it's
that
not.
too.
It's not the same thing. I can't toggle it on or off unless I choose original sound for musicians.
That was how it used to
I
be.
think her point is that used to say,
Original
I don't know exactly
sound.
how it was worded, but it used to be explicit about turning it on the main screen. Now they've made it a musician's option.
Right, but the problem is that when in settings, it sounds to me like, let me get rid of this. In settings, I have two options. I can choose what do I want my audio profile to be? Do I want to use Zoom optimized audio, or do I want to use original sound for musicians? That seems to me to be the choice. This option, this same choice, should exist in the meeting itself, but it only exists in the meeting when in the settings I choose original sound for musicians.
Well, but when you choose music, so they've struggled over this button forever, right? But when you choose the musician's original sound, it does show up and it's on, and it stays visible there.
And I can toggle
and
it
you
off.
can toggle it.
But why can't I toggle it?
Is when you toggle it off, it goes back to Zoom optimized. It's not telling you that.
No, it is going back to Zoom optimize, but the button is persistent. That's what I'm just fetching about the button.
Oh yeah.
The button should be persistent.
I think this speaks to something you brought up earlier, though, David. I think that the reality is the reason they didn't change the button. They changed the language, because literally I spent 2 weeks with this button specifically. It used to just say original sound on. And I think you're right when you said earlier, it doesn't seem like I need it to have original sound on. And what Zoom is doing is saying, if you're a musician, if you are going to sing, you need to have this on. If you are not going to sing, you don't need original sound, because it actually functions the same way. The only thing that changed is literally the title of it.
I understand all of that. My complaint is that there are two audio profiles, which I can adjust in audio settings. When I changed the audio profile in settings, then I get the button in the meeting that also allows me to toggle between those two settings.
Yeah,
why don't I just have that toggle? Why it's making me click two places is my complaint.
Right.
And maybe again, like you said, maybe they want me to have to click into.
So I will tell you, you don't necessarily, unless you have, like you do, right? You have a microphone set up. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to keep that original sound on all the time unless I was playing music. Otherwise, I would keep it off and use their other settings. The other thing that looks a little different is when before you could only take the suppression down to low. And so now it seems like when you hit original sound, it is actually giving you everything back. So like literally 2 weeks ago, you could turn on original sound, but you still had the suppression and you could get it down to low, but you could never take it off completely.
No, I don't think so. When you turned on original sound, it bypassed. Even though you're right, you could still choose low. You
The
could only choose
setting
low.
was
It
still
bypassed
there
it.
for suppression, but the suppression was bypassed in original sound. Not obviously, but it was.
I don't think this change made a big difference other than the wording, to be honest with you.
Oh, I agree.
And
I agree.
from last year to this year, they changed what actually it meant on your screen, because it was so, when they first introduced it, it was so backwards that
It
you
was
didn't
totally
know if you were
backwards.
pressing it on or off. Like you had no idea. Like I actually
Yep.
was hoping in this version that it would be much more like the iPhone, because the iPhone is a physical green button. You literally turn it, you toggle it on and you see that it's green. With this, I don't think you still know if you're on or off. I think it's just
Right. Right, guys, but that wasn't my question. My question was that it's what I was able to do when I joined the meeting. Original sound, I can have it go on by default. I cannot do that now. I have to toggle it on every time I join, and I
No.
can't find that setting anymore.
So,
Robert?
so even though the musician
correct.
button shows now,
Yeah,
it doesn't have the drop down any longer to the
no,
right of it.
he's correct.
Yeah,
Does not.
interesting.
Right?
Robert?
Because
Rob-
before, the way I've got my setup, I wanted it to be automatically on, original sound on. And
But
if
I
I'm a
think
musician
but I think it
Go
will
ahead,
be if you set it up, if in your settings, not in the meeting, in your settings, if you choose enable original audio for musicians, then that will be persistent when you join any meeting.
right, but again, it was still in off mode. I still had to go up and toggle it to go on.
I wonder if when you were last in a meeting, if you had toggled it off, because that should be persistent.
So
What we did lose is the ability to say, I want to use original audio only with this specific microphone.
Right.
Which I thought was really nice.
Okay.
Robert, did you
Because
wanna-
I thought I noticed too that I could actually make it per meeting, that I could actually join an actual meeting with original
Dave-
sound on.
But
it
David, you and I
wasn't
have
last
been-
year. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't 3 weeks ago, because I said everybody, I taught them how to turn it on, and then they'd come in and it was off and they had to turn it on. So
But David,
Yeah.
I'm like you. You wanted, because a lot of times, I assume you're using whatever virtual mic Ecamm provides. I'm often using the virtual mic that Memo Live provides. And when that was happening, I wanted original sound on, because I was actually playing something through that virtual mic. Whereas if it's just me, I want original sound off because I don't want people to have to hear the air conditioner in the background.
Yeah.
Robert,
Well,
did you
and
want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm on version 5.11.10, and I still have the option to choose which microphone that applies to.
Yeah, I think it changed in .12.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
The other thing is, Peter talked about virtual mics. I use these virtual cables to bring in sound from other apps into Zoom, and definitely original. You got to have the original sound there. Otherwise, the Zoom compression just messes up the sound completely.
Agreed.
Although if you turn, again, in your settings, if you turn noise suppression to low, it's really not awful. Because again,
it's
I
still
play
low. It's still low. It still happens. So if you have
no,
music,
it is still happening. But I mean, I listen to recordings of Zoom meetings where I'm playing guitar, or I have a video that has audio in it, and it's not cutting out. I mean, I'm not an audiophile, so maybe I'm not paying close enough attention, but it's not terrible.
Yeah. Hey, I had a post on the community that I had to test myself and reply, and they wanted some advice on how to get rid of the green border around what you're sharing. And there is an option, right, in the settings, share screen settings, to turn off the green border from what you're sharing. The results, though, are it will turn the green border off if you're screen sharing, but it doesn't ever seem to remove the green border if you're app sharing or portion of screen sharing. The only success I could get with no green border is from sharing screens, not apps or portions of screens. Just thought it was an interesting find for, like recordings and things like that. So
That's strange.
yeah.
On this computer,
I gotta
I'm gonna
drop,
find 11.
guys. We're gonna
gonna call it a day. Jeff, be safe out there. Have fun at the game tonight.
Absolutely.
And everyone, thank you so much for being here. Tamara and Robert, Peter, Frank, Kirsten, Mike, everyone who was with us before. It's really good diving in this week. Next week we got a big week because the guys are coming back. The boys are back in town. Are we gonna get pulled off YouTube for that? Because I just sang that. It's okay. I didn't have original sound on, so I don't think we'll get pulled off.
There you go.
Do you want to tell us, Jeff, what's happening next week?
Sure. So Andy Carluccio, he's gonna be joining us next week, and as you know, they haven't announced a public release of ZoomISO 2.0 publicly, although it's in beta. But we all know it's getting near. He probably knows when, but I think he knows it's close enough to where he'll be able to show it off and let us know kind of what and where things settled out of beta into release and so forth. So it and often when Andy shows up, others from the team do as well. So we should be well informed and enjoy it. It's a big step up. It's really quite exciting, the number of months they've been there and how much has taken place and been developed and released. So pretty good stuff.
And they've had it's been updated now a couple of times. And in fact, Peter, I think last week we mentioned that the logging out thing, how annoying that is. That's fixed.
Yeah, no, I tried it too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they've even in the 2 weeks, so I think we've had 3 0 point
Something or
or
other,
0
yeah.
dot updates, which have been really nice. So definitely join us for that next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Kirsten and Robert, go to bed. It's late. Wait, am I allowed to say break time is over? I don't think I am. I've always wanted to. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Leo's going to
Thanks,
get you.
David. Bye.
Bye bye.